Help us keep the Product Porch lights on by giving at patreon.com/the Product Porch. Please review the podcast on your favorite platform. Your reviews help new listeners discover us. Thanks.
Absolutely, it's going to change our jobs. Absolutely, it's going to eliminate our jobs. Those of you who are Jira slinging ticket monkeys, forget about it. You're gone.
Welcome to the Product Porch. I'm Joe Gallo. Today, Todd and I are thrilled to have Dean Peters with us to look into his product management crystal ball and tell us what he sees coming in 2025. Now settle in, folks, because on the Product Porch, every topic is a product topic.
That's going to work in the podcast, but okay. All right, let's
not keeping that in. Joe, it's great to see you.
Good to see you too, Todd. Happy podcast recording day. Today's a good day.
And you know what? I'm so excited. We have probably the most name-checked person on our podcast.
Celebrity.
I don't know how many mentions he's gotten. Here on the porch with us, Dean Peters is joining us. Dean, we're so good to see you.
Just got to keep sending you those $50 bills to get the mention, right?
Keep the $50 bills coming and we'll keep mentioning your name.
There you go.
We are so lucky. Both of us have worked with Dean. I've been lucky enough to work with Dean in 2 different experiences in my career. So very fortunate for that. Dean is older than silt. That is a quote from Dean.
That's right. That's right. I'm older because, you know, Jeff Patton says he's older than dirt. Well, if he's older than dirt, I'm older than silt because silt is what dirt becomes when it's no longer dirt.
I was today years old when I learned the word sylph.
Fantastic. Dean is also, he's published his first AI algorithm. What year was that you published your first AI algorithm?
Yeah, 1987. Yes.
Wow. Dean is currently a consultant and trainer at Product Side. He has a blog as well called Dean on Delivery. So Dean, again, welcome to the porch. I know you have something you're excited to talk to us about. We're really excited about it as well. What do you have in mind for the porch?
I work with you guys long enough. I know I got to tell a story to get in the door here. So I got a story for you. I got it roped into being on this panel, one of these product manager panels here. I was number 4. Whenever they asked a question, it would go to the first person, the second person, third person, then Dean. And things were going that way. And the first person happened to be a little bit full themselves. The next person was a little more reasonable. The next person a little more reasonable. And then there was me on the other extreme. I don't think they had intentionally set it up that way, but that's just the way life worked. And been doing the panel for about, I don't know. I think we were into the panel about an hour, less than an hour into it, but towards the end. And then like, okay, we're going to ask questions and have each of you answer it. So they asked this first cat, hey, do you think AI will replace our jobs as product managers? Harumph, harumph, harumph. Can never replace this. Harumph, harumph, just chuffing away. And I'm like, okay. It's, listen to this guy. And the next person's like, well, I think a little bit here and there and there. Next person, well, but at the end. And then they finally get to me. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? The jobs we know as product management today are gone. I said, if you're thinking that your job is going to be the same job as it was 2 years ago, or, is going to be the same job as it was 2 years from now, forget about it. And I just went off on a little bit of a rant there. As you know, sometimes I can wave my hands, tap into my inner Greek, be full of the juices of life. And you could almost hear even though I wasn't in the room there, you could hear at the hush all like, because I'm sitting here saying, absolutely, it's good. I said things like, absolutely, it's going to change our jobs. Absolutely, it's going to eliminate our jobs. Those of you who are Jira slinging ticket monkeys, forget about it. You're gone. Hey, why don't I put my life on the line here in the middle of October, predict what 2025 is going to look like. So when this podcast
I love this.
Comes out, in January sometime?
Yeah.
We can all laugh hysterically about the predictions I made a few months earlier.
I love this so much. And it gives us a chance to play a game here. I can't wait to hear your predictions. It gives Joe and I a chance as well to share our own predictions.
If this was on video, I would have done the Karnak thing, Being older than silt, I can get away with that reference.
I love it. Let's just, how about we dive in?
Let's do it.
Do we have a prediction number 1? I'd love to hear prediction number 1.
So prediction number 1 is a friendly one. It's not a threatening one. Well, maybe it's a threatening one think about it, Todd. I know you've got the drum set still behind you there. And I think you and I have had our disagreements about, I don't know, music for videos and how videos should be done. And I don't care anymore because I know by the end of next year, I'm going to be able to launch videos, like explainer videos or whatever, just by coming in with a script. In fact, I don't even have to be all that good of a script writer. All right. I can just sort of mumble into a microphone, have it massage it there, send it on through, and we're going to get nice, either animated or some sort of things, because there's so much going on with multimedia and multimodal and AI, especially in around generating text, images, video. Man, I'm going to be so dangerous with just being able to just rant and rave. I'm hoping that there's also, I can connect that with some cartoon art as well. And that way I can sort of have these angry AI generated product manager character.
Angry Dean.
Wait. Who's somewhere, who's a cross between the sarcasm of Kurt Vonnegut mixed with the cutting bite of Bill Burr and then the outrage of Lewis Black, all rolled into one character.
Oh my God. You just aged yourself, Dean.
Joe, did you hear where Dean decided to start on his future of AI list? Did you hear when he picked his number? He came right out. It was like, I'm just going to trigger Todd.
I know.
From the very beginning.
It's like a knife. He knows what Todd's passionate about. It's like he knew he wanted to be the antagonist in tonight's discussion. So he's going to go after the musician.
Right. Listen, the guy's, he's worked with me twice. He knows the dangers of working with me. He should have not been surprised that I pulled out, my sucker punch bat first.
Well, I'd love to hear Joe's thoughts on this before I jump in with mine.
Okay, so I'll be honest. In the learning and development space, I have been already contacted by those types of entities out there where all you have to do is feed it the script and they'll build the videos, the tutorials, the learning videos. Like gone are the days where you're going to have to go find an agency, find talent, give them a script.
Joe, it'll take samples of our ugly faces.
Yeah.
It's even better than that. We could be looking at the script. We could be looking down at our desk, and it's going to adjust our eyes and our mouth to make it look like. And it'll just take about 10 minutes of sampling, and it'll get our voice, our face, and it'll look like we're speaking square at it.
And it's dirt cheap. I've priced it out. It is dirt cheap.
Think about it. I wanted to do one of what do you call it? Kanban confessional, where it's like, bless me, Scrum Master, for I've sinned. It's been 3 weeks since my last retrospective. Do something like that. I mean, think about it. I could do something like that.
Oh, reconciliation for Scrum Masters. Oh my God. I'm going to get struck by lightning.
Dean, you would be fantastic with solutions like that. The way your mind works, the way you're really good at connecting product topics with all sorts of creative outlets, you'd be fantastic. I have an idea for our game then as we keep going through other numbers.
Yeah.
I think as we do one, so right now, first off, I'm going to say, I agree with you.
Totally.
I agree with you. The technology's there. It's nearly there right now. There's already tools. I mean, if you look at what you can do in the Adobe suite with AI, it's impressive. We're already doing things with voice. I have one question and then I have one thought. Question is, okay, so what does that mean for product managers with these content tools being there? And then the other thought I have, which I'd like to push you on, is this a good thing?
All right. So for example, if I wanted to do an explainer video, right? I mean, we did an explainer video when I was at Seven Lakes. Took a lot of time, took a lot of money. It was good though. I mean, we did a series of 3, and we even, we did Manny, Martin, and Angie, and we even had people coming up to us saying like, "Hey, I think I got a Manny problem where I work here." So we were really happy about that. It was a good vote. So I think that's the good part here. I think the bad part is when they start farming out things like what they're supposed to be doing live, like product demos, and starting to use that to sort of fake their way through that and not really understanding the cost. And Todd, I'm just like product demos, just sort of lifeblood for me. People who know my secret past life, or worst kept secret on the internet, know that it's just sort of like, you can't do a demo passionately, you are in the wrong job. And so I do feel like you're going to get some of those persons who hide behind this.
I said at the beginning here, Dean, this is a fantastic tool for you. You with these tools, it's great. When I look at the content that's been created since generative AI has become popularized,
right?
It's disappointing. I mean, it's already at the point where most of the writing I see that people have AI generated is disappointing.
Yeah.
Because I still think, you still have to have the right conductor conducting the orchestra.
Well, I agree with you. And part of that is, look, it's just like I said, some of the training that, like I said, you all know what, Joe, what's my secret past life? He knows what it is. You can go ahead and
opera
spill the
singer.
beans. I was, in which, man, I had, from age 6, I was, working in theater professionally. As I got older, I got training in the fine arts. I hung out with artists. So I had a lot of that training that you need to do the creatives there. So for me, it's just like, why didn't this tool come earlier? Okay. Yeah. And I think what's going to happen is some of these product managers, especially those coming out of a technical background, and this is a former engineer, a recovering engineer saying this, got to learn how to, be a great storyteller. And got to become, and not just at the narrative. I'm talking about going deep, getting to what they call that Hakawati level, that Arabic word for that classic storyteller who goes deep into the meaning here. That's just a lot of listening and watching to great storytellers. But you don't see people in product spending time in that area. So, the demos are almost as boring as their stand-ups.
I mean, I'd want you guys to challenge me on this. But I was just thinking about like what's missing in a lot of product teams is, that person that's the great, like you said, a great storyteller, someone that can read a room, someone that can motivate, someone who has compassion and empathy.
Yeah.
I wonder, I'm highly skeptical that part of that PM job will be replaced with an AI agent.
Listen, AI is there to take care of a lot of that other crap. So
Correct.
I can take time to storytell.
Correct.
Nothing's going to help you with those socializing skills. Nothing's going to help you, with those abilities in terms of what you might have to do in terms of strategic thinking here. It can frame a strategy, but you don't know if it's a good strategy or not. And then there's like things like I said, I remember teaching a class and someone dropped in something that was generated. It was like 9 months ago. I think we were doing positioning statement and they just plopped it right in there. And I just stopped for a second and said, okay, everybody, let's stop for a second here. If you're going to sit there and use generative AI, let me show you how to use it in a way that you actually don't get garbage in and garbage out, in a way that actually has some value and doesn't get you fired.
And the why behind that's important. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. They don't understand the way generative AI works.
Yeah.
They don't understand that it's just probability driven.
Yeah.
And it's looking for what is most likely the next thing that one would do. And so what people forget about is, especially when you're creating a piece of art, and I think of when you're writing a problem statement or you're writing an explanation for your solution, I think of that as more art.
Yeah.
And the reason I do is because you have to communicate in a way that people get it quickly and feel it deeply.
Right.
Dean, you want to jump in?
Yeah, Todd, that's true. But at the end of 2025, I think that might start shifting too, because on my list, number 2 is...
You didn't let me finish my... No.
Finish your
Let's
thought,
not go number
and
2.
then I'm going to double back on... Because I agree
I don't think you disagree with me. I don't think you disagree with me.
I don't disagree.
But you need to let me finish my thought.
Right now, it's based off of probabilities.
Let
totally
me finish,
agree with
though.
you. Okay.
The point is this. AI models are built... Generative AI is built on... is probability driven. So what is it doing? It's going, it's learning from the way we've seen things written in the past. And it's taking and it's saying, this is most likely the way. So you know how things have been written in the past? Very crappily. Most product managers who write problem statements aren't great at it.
Yeah.
You guys know this as consultants. I know this.
Yeah.
I sat down and said, hey, give me your documentation so I know what your product is. And I sit down and I read 2 paragraphs. And at the end of 2 paragraphs, I go, I have no idea what this thing is.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what it does, why it's doing it. And so here's the problem. This is why you get to what you're saying, Dean. If you're doing it the right way, you know how to ask the right questions of AI, asking the questions, or asking AI to ask questions, and then using those to generate the context that then is going to produce your output. And then you know how to become an editor, not a writer, but an editor to edit that content.
Yep.
Then you're going to be fantastic with it. But what unfortunately a lot of people do is exactly what you said. They put in, my product is this, give me a positioning statement. It spits an ugly thing out that's full of marketing jargon, easy to use, integrated, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like reading everyone's documentation that I read today.
Oh, yeah.
It's garbage. You made garbage faster. You made that garbage really quickly.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
But it's garbage.
It's like, I love that, twice the features in half the time. Now he's twice the features in half the time. And now it's AI enhanced. Or the way I put it is twice the crap in half the time. Only now it's AI enhanced crap.
Woo!
Okay. But there are some changes. And so you're going to get 2 for 1. So first of all, you're going to start seeing the rise of customizable generative AI. So I can almost Deanify my AI agent experience, which is scary enough to think that there's going to be something, a little bit of cloning of me. But then when you combine that with what they call agentic AI, so in other words, instead of just doing probabilities, it's now working on 2 things: workflow and inference. Now it's going to start sitting there and getting more nuance. So it's not just going to be what's the next token, what's the next token here. The agentic AI is going to sit there and spawn off a bunch of processes based off of inference, and then the customer generative AI will have a Dean flavored way of doing that, or a Todd way of doing that here. So I do think we're going to see some things, that will be emerging during 2025 and towards the end of 2025 are going to take shape on thinking like, wow, what we were doing in 2024 or 2023 was just so Neanderthal.
So is that your number 2?
Number 2 is agentic, and number 5 was customizable. But I think when you combine the 2, we address some of the situations you're talking about here.
So agentic, AGENTIC.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, just spread that around work. They'll make it like, listen to Joe. He knows what he's talking about.
I just added another word to my vocabulary. Thank you, Dean. I appreciate it. Sylph and agentic.
But
you know my motto: adding value to everyone's day.
And it's interesting though, what I think about agentic AI still has its own problems, right?
Oh yeah.
Because if the purpose of it is to learn and improve future responses based on experience, the problem there is, okay, well, how then are we measuring the success? How is it learning from producing this product management documentation? Again, we've allowed a lot of garbage for a very long time.
Well, it means now we also not only have to learn how to be the artist part for the multimedia part, now we have to learn how to be workflow experts too. And that's something we should know as product managers, but as you two know, when we start talking workflow, we've seen some pretty convoluted, thinking.
What do you mean by workflow, Dean?
So, I mean, just getting I want to get a certain task done. So, for example, I want to create a slide deck on this topic here. All right. Mm-hmm. So in a perfect world, an agentic AI with a customizable, agent here could say, look, the way I like to write, the style I like to write here. I want to write on this topic. Here's, give me a deck that's about 60, 60 slides here that I teach a half a day on these 5 bullet points here. And it just spawns off agents and goes out. So it'll like go spawn off and do the type of things that we get with Perplexity right now to find out information. It'll go spawn off and do some artwork. It'll go spawn off and put this all together here. And, maybe give us a notification a half hour later saying, here you go.
Yeah, and it's funny because this gets back to the same part of our first point, right? We
Right.
talk a lot about storytelling. It comes up a lot in our podcast as a superpower. And a lot of things we're talking about here as superpowers
Yeah.
are things that actually, to me, becomes more heightened and more important, not less so with these things. Because as soon as we start talking decks, I see so many bad practices there.
Yeah.
So, but to your point, if you can, you need to learn how to formulate your thinking in a way that is structured, in a way that is emotionally evocative, and that is data driven. If you know how to do these kind of things and tell these stories, you're made that much more powerful with these tools.
I mean, I was the other day here just trying to get, just to get good old ChatGPT to start. What I actually wanted to do was ask me, what I wanted to do was I wanted to create a one of these line of questioning prompts. So basically, I wanted it to interrogate me over 9 questions on a topic with product. I think it was a build, buy, or borrow type topic. Basically, it asked me 9 questions along that, and I couldn't get it to get that sort of thinking. So I stopped and said, "Hey, you familiar with Twinery?" And it goes, "Yeah, I know Twinery." So write me a Twine script, on these steps here. I said, "Good. Okay, fine." Now, the problem with Twine is everything's hard coded. And I said, "Okay, now that you understand that, I want you to do this. Only I want you to interpret my answers." All right. So in other words, rather than sit there and take this, because what Twine does is saying,
that.
"Hey, you got a problem with this. Do you want to go left or right?"
Yep.
I want to go right. Oh, 5 points off. I said, instead of left or right, saying, "You've got this situation here. How are you going to react?" "Oh, I think I need to, get out my storyboard and tell a story." "Very good. You get 5 points. You would have gotten 50 points if you'd have gone this direction." Things like that. And so it's, this is just me taking, good old 4.0 and making this happen. It's not that hard to teach them. And so, it doesn't take a whole lot of people figuring that out. I just happen to bring the game aspect into the session space, had it write the game thing, and then said, "Okay, now I want you to be that Twinery agent. Only instead of stock answers, you interpret, because that's, something can do real well here." So I think we're going to be able to see people take those sort of approaches to, with agentic AI and customizable, in combination with customizable generative AI. So I do think that's going to happen.
So let's go to number 3.
So we're going to see the rise of open source AI models here. So I can start doing, experimenting with some stuff without having to sit there and go through, just go through some of these other models here. I can just take one of these open models here and just sort of cast it the way we want. And I think there's going to be a lot of small companies that do that as well, saying like, "Look, we just need to get a proof of life, proof of concept here. So we're just going to pull one of these open source models. We're going to, abstract our interface to it, so then we can switch to a better model here. But why sit there and go, burn through all our runway, buying tokens from OpenAI, when we can sit there and run with these open models for our proof of life, just enough to get, either some funding or at least some feedback on product or market fit."
So Dean, let me back up. So someone that's still, I consider myself knowledgeable, but the open source AI piece of it, give me a scenario, like where does this become of importance to your typical product manager, or like what does it mean in the product management space? I'm trying to bridge the two.
You want to feel the proof of life. You've got little or no budget. You're trying to run a tiny act of discovery here. Can you get your core concepts off of this open source model that's not going to cost you a whole lot, just enough to say, yes, there is actually a signs of life with what we're doing. There's actually some validation here. So it's a inexpensive way. You just got to make sure your engineers don't hard code your way into that or fall in love with this solution instead of, falling in love with the problem. But again, I think it is going to create an economy so smaller players can vet their ideas without burning through a lot of cash and a lot of processing.
So would it help them create like scenarios, like fake data to help them validate their idea? Is that what the OpenAI model would do?
No. It would actually help them do what they're doing right now. If every time I run if I were to sit there and get out my Python skills here and write a little interface here to the OpenAI API, every time I'm hitting it, it's costing me money. Right? Every time I make that API call, you get a little ching. All right. I don't need to do that just to show proof of life for a lot of my concepts. In other words, there is a time to bring in those big guns, but bring them in early. Why? So again, if you're working on a small proof of life, if you're keeping things tiny and narrow, these could be really effective tools. I knew some guys, they were going to sit there and their idea was, hey, we got all these microbreweries here around the Raleigh area. We're going to build a service here that lets these people who are brewing, use alternative recipes when they run out of certain things, like certain types of hops or certain types of, I don't know. I'm not into that craft, but I remember talking to these guys saying, I'm saying, well, how are you going to get validation of proof of life? And then they showed me, and I was like, they were building infrastructure like crazy people. And I said, and I'm looking at it, all I can think of is, well, there goes your AWS bill. That's going to go up. And there's going to go your cloud cost there. You're building on top of this. And I mean, they were just picking the most expensive. And 4 months later, they were out of runway. They all had that little green little label on their LinkedIn profiles because they didn't keep the cost down. And the thing was, all they had to prove was the fact that, here's Bob the brewer. He's run out of barley, and it's right around Thanksgiving time. He has a certain craft the beer he's putting out here. So now, how do I find an alternative recipe here? So this is not a big lift here, and
Right.
you shouldn't have to break the bank to build this thing.
It's interesting. This connects to one that I see coming, and y'all can call me crazy if you'd like. We have lots of data already on how, I should say this, one should have lots of data already on how their users use their product.
Right.
If you're using anything that's tracking live sessions, right, you already have a lot of information about how your users, where your users click, how your users move on a page. User testing today is a big challenge for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Trying to get in front of the right people, get them to test. We have a lot of crafting we have to do through questions. I see a future in which this is going to be, AI is going to get us most of the way there already.
Yeah. Now,
if they can mimic the behaviors of our users.
Right. I've got validation of that. So on a plane, flying to New York, before I headed out to Saudi Arabia, sitting next to a guy who was a UNC professor who was also, runs his own company here. He's already using that. So first of all, you're talking about a machine learning model that's going to run the simulation there. The person who's running Blue Sky Robotics, he's using computer vision. He's taking pictures of human beings or real life circumstances. It's then taking that and running that into a 3D simulator. The 3D simulator takes that and creates, thousands and thousands of events based off of those, permutations. That then pushes that into the robotic arm that either, picks up objects or spray paints objects there, keeping the cost down. And so think about what that's going to do for healthcare, right? Think about now how much data we're going to be able to create for our models. Because Todd, this, you and I working over at IQVille, it takes a lot of data here. So now you've got number 3, the open source AI models that you can start using to help you with number 4 on my list with all that scientific resource, research, because now you're going to be able to crank out a crap ton of simulations, and from that, a bunch of synthetic data.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So I had no idea that was your next one. What stops us from doing that today is not being able to simulate the user, because we're not simulating trials. That's not what we're simulating. It's not race car testing, right? This is, we need the person who's going to use the product.
Right.
That is what I think will change.
Yeah.
Is we'll be able to actually simulate. So for example, today my product, I have nurses using my product, right? Joe, do all your products have nurses as well, or do you have something else?
Clinicians, nurses, absolutely.
We need someone who does. Some people have nurses. Some people have accountants. Some people have engineers. Are their user. My point is this. My point was just going to be, each of these individuals use things differently. And that's the simulation that we need, is to understand, oh, I can pretend to be Todd's persona because I have seen how 1,000 of Todd's personas have behaved.
Right.
And I will be them using the tool.
Right. And then that is the
Yep.
correct use of generative for that, because you'll
Right.
have some sort of probabilistic. It could be just as simple as an expert system. It's going to crank out the different permutations, and then that's the generative saying, all right, give me Todd on a good day. Give me Todd on a day where it's raining. Give me Todd on, and then the generative will be able to do that with enough samples. So I do think it'll be able to create that human that you're talking about there.
So have either of you ever had a concussion? You ever had a concussion?
Don't ask me how many. I can't remember.
So when I had a concussion, my wife had this conversation over and over again with me. Todd, or I would say, Mary, what happened? Todd, you're riding on the motorcycle. You were going too fast. You took a turn too fast and it flipped. That doesn't sound like me. Literally verbatim, she had this conversation over and over and over again. And so it suggests to me that there's some sort of patterns that we have in our brain that for some reason we will choose to say the same thing, or we'll choose to respond the same way. A lot of times, and I've been wondering about that. Hey, because we always say, if given another chance, I would have done this differently. And I wonder sometimes, if you would have. I bet if we put you in that situation again, without the memory of what happened before, you probably do the same thing.
Yeah.
That tells me that if that's how humans behave, it is something that AI can pull apart. It's something that this should be able to target.
It's an observable
it goes to the
pattern.
probability piece of it.
Yeah, it's an observable pattern here. I mean, that's why I think Copilot is concussed most of the time, because every time it gets sometimes it gets because it gets stuck. No, I mean it gets stuck sometimes. Like I say, no, you answered it wrong. Do it this way. Okay, sure, it's the same answer. No, you just repeated yourself. Okay, and I'm like, I got like 10 times the same. And I'm like, that's it, we're done. So it's definitely had its bell rung more than once there. So gosh, we've gone through pretty much my list here. Dang it, we've only got one more.
Let's do the last one. We need Dean Stradamus's last prediction
like
here.
That. Yeah, I'd say that again.
Dean Stradamus's last pick, and then I'd like to do actually, rather than predictions, I'd like to do our wish list.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, the wish list. Definitely wish list. Definitely.
Let's do our seventh, and then we'll ping pong some wish list items.
So, back in 2015, I came out with the term Jira slinging ticket monkey. Right?
We've all been there. I've been that monkey.
And that describes all that horrible, artifact where, sprint plans, backlogs, epics, all that just brain, where it's like, what I think Marty Kagan calls it, product management theater. And my hope, and speaking of the wish list, is that we have the AI powered Scrum artifact generation, that automation of all those things. I mean, last summer I came out with a 1-minute video on just how to generate user stories and, what do you call it? Epic user. I was a 1-minute video with the Mike Cohn user story, coupled with the Gherkin, acceptance criteria. Yeah. And then you wash it through the Richard Lawrence story splitting here. And I'm telling you, get results that are almost as good as anybody else on the, who's just.
I'd be surprised. I shouldn't be surprised, but I'd be disappointed, I guess, to hear that product managers aren't doing this already. Because I'm creating epics.
Oh yeah.
It gives me what I want. It gets me 80 to 90% there.
Yeah. It's not good enough to go to production, but it's good enough to sit there and have a conversation. And all I tell people is just be transparent, saying, look, I generated this. We know that's generated here. So full disclosure here, but let's nudge this to perfection.
Here's the thing I do all the time now. Ask it to ask you questions.
Yeah.
That's what gets you there so fast. So rather than spending your time creating user stories and creating epics, ask it what it needs to know to do it.
Right.
Answer the questions in a very common language way. Don't worry about being special. Don't worry about writing user stories. Don't worry about trying to write marketing jargon. Just tell it the answers, and then it can generate those things very quickly for you.
Yeah. Man, you got through all 7 of them. We almost made it sound natural.
That was fantastic. So let's play our game now. Rapid fire. Let's go quickly. Cool. It's just our wish list.
I'll go first.
Go first.
My wish, we get rid of the title AI product manager.
Oh my gosh, yes.
We get rid of it. Goodness,
yeah, we could do a whole episode on that. Congratulations. It's 2025. You are all
or director of AI product management. And I'm like,
I hate that title because it's like
it makes me so angry. So that's my one wish.
Todd, I want to hear your wish.
Here's my wish. Road mapping is still largely a manual process. Even if you're using a tool, Dean looks confused. As someone who is building roadmaps all the time, sure, the art of putting it on paper, there's tools that do that. But the process of getting through all the different prioritization levels and strategic elements to get there, that is very, very manual.
Because road mapping is more art than science.
Yes, and it requires a lot of prioritization levels. If you're building your roadmap after a single prioritization conversation with some stakeholders, I can tell you right now you're doing it wrong. Because you have to prioritize at the outcome level. You have to prioritize at the problem level. Then you have to prioritize at the layered roadmap level of features that have come from different categories.
I love that plea on roadmaps because that still speaks to, you talked about storytelling. A roadmap's a story. You're telling a story. You want it to be compelling.
I think Yana Besto she's working on that. I think she's been working on it with her product there. So,
this is another topic for another day. But I gotta say, I am still not satisfied with any road mapping technique.
Yeah,
I'm still not. I've iterated over a decade, whatever, 15 years, iterated on my roadmaps. The ones I have today are the best I've gotten to. I'm still not happy with them. I don't, because no matter which way you slice it, is still a list of things. Yep. Those lists of things may be outcomes. You may be using now, next, later. So it's not time bound. They're not commitments, but they're outcomes. But it still is an ugly freaking list. We still have not achieved nirvana with roadmaps. So I'd like to get there, and maybe AI can help me.
Dean, what's yours?
I want the Ronco fine-tuning brain dump-o-matic system where I can just sit there and take everything I've ever written and done, drop it in there with just like, look, here's the hard drive, go learn. And that way I can just walk up to the sucker and say, hey, I need a deck on this. Do it like the one I did when I gave the presentation over at Pandemonium in 2019. Walk away, go ride my bike on the tobacco trail, sit there and, try fighting off what they call the bugs in my garden here. Go out in my front lawn and yell at the kids to get off. And then when I come back, it's all done.
By the way, I was an owner of the Ronco, whatever you call it, the thing that like cooks slowly on the rotating spigot thing. I had one of those. I got sucked in the middle of the night.
Well, I want the Ronco fine-tuning brain dump-o-matic.
Well, before we go into our key takeaways, I got two things. One, if you want to chat with Dean, you want to connect with Dean, find him on LinkedIn /Dean Peters.
Yep.
That's the benefit of being older than Silt, right? Is that you get /Dean Peters.
X.com /Dean Peters. Facebook /Dean Peters. All those systems here. Dean Peters, all one word. You'll find me.
I've never had to fight over my name. Todd Blockier. That's what I tell people all the time. If you saw something written about Todd Blockier, that was me. There's not some other Todd Blockier you can confuse.
There are lots of Joseph Galleys. Believe it or not.
I'm a little upset at Perplexity because I always told my class, like on day one, like on a 3-day class, if you find out what my secret past life is, things will start to make sense here. And usually it takes them all 3 days to figure it out. Some guy had it in 30 seconds when I was just teaching him. He's like, I just looked it up on Perplexity. I'm like, oh. You ruined that that whole thing for me. Thanks for nothing.
So I tried something just for fun. I went into chat. Maybe you guys want to try this as well.
Okay.
And I told them that I was interviewing for a job with the head of product. of BetRx, Todd Blockier.
Mm-hmm.
What should I know about him if I want to speak to the things he cares about? And you know what? It was about 80% there. It went through. It found webinars of mine. It found blogs of mine. And I'm like, oh, crud.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep. There you go.
Oh, so let's start. Let's do our takeaways. Let's have our guests go first, Dean.
All right. Your job as a product manager in 2024 no longer exists in 2025. Understand what the changing trends are and adjust your career appropriately. There are still some of those softy skills that you can make a living on, like storytelling and socializing and strategizing. So lean into those, because all you Jira slinging ticket monkeys out there practicing product management theater. Yeah, your days are numbered.
The key takeaway for our audience is you never stop learning. You never stop learning. And like with the AI, even I have a hard time keeping up. Like today I learned what Agentic was. So I just think even if you could just take a few extra minutes every week and just try to stay on top of some of these trends, just to be aware that they exist.
Yeah.
Right. Not to say that you're well versed in it, but whether it be listening to a podcast like this one or reading an article, even like you guys gave me a good reminder that I'm falling a little behind. So this was a really good reminder to do that.
Mine was very similar. I was going to say, if you're not using AI tools every day, you're already falling behind. So you need to use AI tools every day and figure out how to bring them into. And in fact, it's worth investing time in creating the context and the prompt. You might think to yourself, I can create a user story faster than I can prompt AI. And you know what? I think that's true. For your first one, that's going to be true. I can create this problem statement faster than true. The first one that's true. Or maybe it takes just as much time. But guess what? You got to get the muscle for how you build prompts the right way.
Yeah.
And as you do, and as you work with your AI buddy, you'll start finding that those things are going to come a lot faster than you doing it on your own.
And there's validation. Ethan Mollick's latest book there called, Co-Intelligence is something that every product manager should read there on exactly that sort of pattern we need to do with our careers.
I love
this. Has been awesome, Dean. This has been so cool.
So great.
Thank you so much for coming on here, man.
No, man, no worries. I got to teach AI tomorrow too.
Until next time, Dean, we're gonna check in with you and let's see where we are on our predictions. I can't wait to see how far away or how close we were to our predictions. Until next time.
I'm sure 80% of them will be stinkers, but 20% will be awesome.
I'll take 20%.
Well, it was great seeing both of you guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Product Porch. We release new episodes every 2 weeks. You can also find us on LinkedIn for more content. We offer a special thank you to AJ and Jack Blockier for the music. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts of this podcast are their own and do not represent nor necessarily reflect those of their employer.